Story 1. I used to always take the same walk home every night. It was a habit, you know. After work or after hanging out with friends, I'd just walk down that old road, cutting through a quiet neighborhood with dimly lit streetlights. The houses were all spaced out, and most of the time, the street was dead silent. Nothing to see but a few flickering lights here and there, the occasional stray cat, and the trees swaying when the wind picked up. I liked it because it gave me a little peace. No one really bothered me on that road. But that night, man, I wish I had just taken a cab home. You ever have that feeling, like something's watching you, like someone's walking right behind you, but every time you look back, there's nothing there? That's what it was like that night. A heavy, tense kind of feeling that hung in the air. I don't know what came over me, but everything just felt off. I remember the sky was clear, but the air was thick, almost like it was pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. I was walking slower than usual. My legs felt heavy, and every time my foot hit the pavement, it sounded like a drum echoing through the empty street. Thud, thud, thud. It was like the sound wasn't going away, like it was bouncing off the houses and coming back at me louder. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the road ahead, but I kept having this feeling that something wasn't right. You ever feel like that? Like the air just changes, and everything around you starts to feel wrong. Anyway, I kept walking. The streetlights were flickering more than usual. One of them just went out as I passed by, just blinked off. I looked up at it and thought, well, that's just great. You know how your mind plays tricks on you sometimes. I figured maybe the light going out was just a coincidence, but it wasn't long after that when I heard it. This faint, shuffling sound behind me. I stopped dead in my tracks and listened. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. At first, I thought it was just some animal rustling through the bushes, or maybe some leaves getting blown around. But then it happened again. A soft, dragging sound, like someone was pulling their foot across the ground. It was slow, deliberate, and it sent shivers straight down my spine. I turned around quickly, but there was nothing there. Just the dark road behind me, the same flickering streetlights, and a couple of trees swaying in the wind. But the sound didn't stop. It was still there, just quieter now. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I was just hearing things. I kept telling myself that, you know, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood up like they knew better. I forced myself to keep walking, quicker this time. I could feel sweat dripping down the side of my face even though it wasn't hot. My mind was racing. I didn't want to look back again, but the dragging noise, it was getting closer. Every step I took, it felt like it was right there behind me. I couldn't take it anymore, so I stopped again and whipped around, ready to confront whatever was messing with me. That's when I saw her. Standing there, not more than 10 feet away, was a woman, but something was seriously wrong with her. At first, I couldn't make out all the details, you know? The streetlight flickered right above her, casting these weird shadows across her face. She was pale, her skin almost glowing under the dim light, and she was wearing this old-fashioned dress, like something from a century ago. It was torn, dirty, like she'd been dragged through the mud. And her face, I can still see it clearly, even now. It was blank, emotionless, just staring at me with these dead, hollow eyes. But the thing that really got me, that made my stomach twist in knots, was that she had only one leg. Her other leg, it was just gone. Not like it was hidden or something, but gone. She was standing on her one leg, with her dress hanging down weirdly, and that's when I realized she was the one making that dragging sound. She was pulling herself along with just that one leg. My heart nearly stopped right then and there. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like they were made of stone. I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, staring at this woman, or whatever she was, just watching her sway in the wind like some kind of puppet. The longer I looked at her, the more I could see how wrong everything was. Her head tilted to the side like it was too heavy for her neck, and her mouth was slightly open, but no sound came out. She didn't say anything. She didn't move. She just stood there, staring at me with those empty eyes. I don't know how long I was standing there. Maybe it was just a few seconds, but it felt like hours. And then, without warning, she started moving toward me. Slowly, dragging her leg, inching closer and closer. That sound, the dragging, it was louder now. I could feel it in my bones. It was like nails on a chalkboard, scraping at my nerves. I finally snapped out of it. My legs kicked into gear, and I turned and ran as fast as I could. I didn't care where I was going, I just had to get away. The sound of her dragging foot was fading behind me, but I couldn't stop. My chest was burning. My lungs felt like they were on fire, but I kept running. I didn't look back, not once. I didn't stop until I was standing in front of my door, panting, trying to catch my breath. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what just happened. But I couldn't. There was no explaining it. It didn't make any sense. I just kept telling myself it was a trick of the light, or maybe I'd been seeing things because of how tired I was. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. For weeks, I didn't take that road again. I avoided it like the plague. I even started driving home instead of walking. But one night, curiosity got the better of me. I had to know. I had to see if she was real, if what I saw was real. So I went back, same road, same time of night. My heart was pounding again, but I told myself I'd imagined the whole thing. There was no way she'd be there again. But as soon as I stepped onto that street, I knew I was wrong. That same heavy feeling hit me like a ton of bricks. The street lights were flickering again, and the air felt thick, just like before. I walked slowly, my eyes darting around, expecting her to show up any second. I was halfway down the street when I heard it again. That dragging sound. My stomach dropped, and I stopped dead in my tracks. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to see her again, but I knew I had to. So I turned, slowly, and there she was. The same woman, with the same hollow eyes, the same torn dress, and the same one leg. She was standing there, staring at me, just like before. This time, I didn't wait. I ran. I didn't care what anyone thought. I ran all the way home and slammed the door behind me, locking every lock. I don't know what she was, or why she was there. But I do know one thing. I'm never walking down that road again. Ever. Story 2. I should have known better than to go down that old alley. I mean, people always said it was bad news, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I figured it was just rumors, you know? Every town's got that one creepy spot where they say people have seen ghosts or heard weird noises. I don't know what came over me, but I decided to take the shortcut. I was late heading home, and that alley would cut my walk by at least 10 minutes. So like an idiot, I went for it. The alley wasn't anything special, just a narrow, dark space between two rundown buildings. The walls were covered in graffiti, and there were old trash cans tipped over, like no one had bothered to clean up in years. It stunk too, like something was rotting in the air, but I told myself it was just some old garbage lying around. At first it was quiet. Too quiet, actually. My footsteps echoed off the walls, and the only light came from this one flickering street lamp at the far end. It was one of those lights that buzz, you know? That annoying electric hum that fills the silence. It gave me the creeps, but I brushed it off. I thought, just get through this and you're home free. But then I heard it, a soft sound, like shuffling footsteps behind me. At first, I thought it was just a stray cat or something. I didn't even turn around. I mean, who would? It's a dark alley, and your mind's always messing with you in places like that. But the sound didn't stop. It wasn't random either. It was this steady, deliberate shuffle, like someone was dragging their feet, taking their time. I picked up my pace a little, not trying to look scared. You know how you do that. Like you don't want to admit you're freaking out, but your body's already going faster because something in you knows something's wrong. Yeah, that was me. My heart started pounding and my mouth went dry. I could feel the sweat starting to bead up on the back of my neck. I told myself to stop being stupid and glanced over my shoulder real quick. At first I didn't see anything. The alley was just dark, like always. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Something, or someone, was standing near the wall, just out of reach of the flickering light. I turned all the way around, squinting, trying to make out what it was. At first, I couldn't tell. It looked like a person, but there was something off. They were too still, too quiet. I kept staring, and that's when I saw it. It was a woman. At least, I think it was. She was just standing there, leaning against the wall like she was waiting for something, her head tilted to the side. But the thing that made my stomach drop, she only had one arm. The other one was just gone. There wasn't a sleeve hanging down or anything. It was just missing. She had this long, old-fashioned dress on, the kind you only see in black and white photos from 100 years ago, and it was all dirty and torn up like she'd been through hell and back. I froze. I didn't know what to do. She wasn't moving, but I could feel her eyes on me, even though her face was mostly hidden by her hair. It wasn't like she was staring at me in a normal way. It felt colder. Like she wasn't just looking at me, she was looking through me. Like I wasn't even really there. I took a step back, and that's when she started moving. Slowly. Like, so slow it was almost painful to watch. She didn't walk like a normal person either. She kind of swayed, with her one arm reaching out toward me. Her steps were uneven, like she was dragging herself forward, and I realized her feet weren't even making a sound on the ground. There was this eerie silence, except for that buzzing street lamp. I couldn't take my eyes off her, even though everything in me was screaming to run. My legs felt like they were stuck in cement, and my throat was so tight I couldn't even yell if I wanted to. She was getting closer, and the closer she got, the worse it got. Her face, man, I'll never forget her face. Pale, almost grey, with these sunken eyes that looked like black holes. Her mouth was half open, like she was trying to say something, but no sound came out. Her one arm reached out toward me, and I could see her fingers twitching, like they were desperate to grab onto something, or someone. That's when I snapped out of it. I don't know how, but I managed to turn around and start running. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get out of there. I ran so fast I nearly tripped over myself. My heart was racing, and I could feel my legs burning, but I didn't stop. Not until I was out of that alley and back onto the main road. When I finally slowed down, I was gasping for air, looking around, trying to figure out if she'd followed me. But when I looked back at the alley, she was gone, just like that. There was no sign of her, no sound, nothing. It was like she'd never been there at all. I didn't tell anyone about it for a while. I mean, who would believe me? A one-armed ghost woman lurking in a dark alley. It sounds crazy, but I know what I saw. And the weirdest part, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Those eyes, that empty stare, her arm reaching out. It was like she was burned into my memory. A couple weeks later, I heard someone talking about the alley. They said it used to be part of an old neighborhood, long before the buildings went up. There was a woman who lived there back in the 90s, who lost her arm in some kind of accident. People said she went crazy afterward, wandering the streets, looking for the arm she'd lost. No one saw her for a long time, and then one day, they found her body in that same alley, like she'd just collapsed and died. I didn't want to believe it, but it all started to make sense. The way she looked, the way she moved, like she was still searching for something. I don't know if she was looking for her arm, or if she was just stuck there, forever trapped in that alley. All I know is I'm never walking through that place again. I don't care how late it is, or how much of a shortcut it is. I'm staying far away from that alley and from her. Because the next time she reaches out, I don't think she's going to let me walk away. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, check out more of my videos on the screens above or visit my channel for even more. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates. Stay safe and take care.